You know, it cannot be overemphasized that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of its citizens. It's a constitutional requirement. And any constitution that does not provide for such a thing loses the essence of the social contract. In a democracy, the people go into contract with the government to surrender their sovereignty, individual sovereignty, to the collective will, so that the government will now be the entrusted trustee to hold their commonwealth in trust for their benefit. Unfortunately, the governments of Africa, particularly Nigeria, is holding government for the selfish purposes of the leaders, not for the benefit of the people, which is unconstitutional. How can you be in government and you are providing 90 billion naira for people to go to Hajj, which is seasonal, and you've not asked whether those people and their family that are going to Hajj, whether you are feeding them at home? There is no reception to theology when a man is hungry. You're willing to give them millions for political reasons, billions, and you're saying you want to help them to go and pray, and you're not willing to give them more than 30,000 naira to feed themselves and their families, and they are working for you. When this government came to power, they were earning 30,000 naira per month, which was highest 500. It's supposed to be 450, 461, but let's even say it's 500 naira. That's about $60. Now that the dollar has gone to almost 2,000 naira to a dollar, at least he reached to that level. Since minimum wage is not something you go every day to negotiate, you will take the worst case scenario. So if it is 2,000 naira to a dollar, how much does it come to? About $15. Now, if you times $60, which was what they were earning when you came in, with 2,000 naira, that should be 120,000 naira. So even if you're paying them what they were earning, the value of their 30,000 when you came in, you should be talking about 120,000 naira. On the list, you have not increased their salary. And then you're saying you're going to pay them about 50%. They started with even 40,000. Is that not a bit unconscionable? Do you meet people and leave them worse than you met them? You judge a government by saying, 4 years ago when they came in, 1 year ago, are you better off than you are today? So when it comes to the issue of national wage, it's really very shameful. When Labour say 400 and 600, some people want to say it's unreasonable. I say, it's unrealistic. I say, I don't like those words. There's nothing unrealistic about it. When you came out and say fuel subsidy is gone in a sentence, is there anything realistic about it? Did you consult them? Because you are in government for their welfare. That is what the Constitution says. How can you take such decision that is going to affect their welfare without even consulting them? Is it realistic? Now, the fuel, they are buying it 700 naira, 800 naira, and they are public servants. They are bound to go to work. More than 300% increase. What is realistic? That when you came in, they were buying a bag of rice for 19,000. Now they are buying it for 80,000 naira. No, what is realistic that you, knowing what they are going through, you depreciated naira from 500 naira to 2,000 naira to $1. No, what is realistic that your vice president that is already living in a very secure, powerful house, that you're bringing 21 billion naira within 9 months to build a new house for him? What is realistic that your chief of staff, a place that you want him to live, they say electronic this and another, and they are going to spend 20 billion naira within a year? What is realistic that where the National Assembly people want to park their car, you're spending 6 billion naira to build car park? And the budget of the National Assembly that was about 100 and something billion naira, they jacked it up to 360 something billion naira. What is realistic about it? What is realistic about giving billions to your unelected first lady, who has confessed that they don't need the money of Nigeria, that God has blessed them with their own money, that they have come for the welfare of the people? She said it openly. And yet you're giving her billions to eat. But you're saying that labor is not realistic when they say, give us 400, because one bag of rice is 80,000. But a family of 6, when you check education, healthcare, this, there is nothing unrealistic about it. But you can bring the argument that it's unaffordable. Not that you wouldn't have afforded it if you had done the right thing. But since you have confessed that you're a government of profligacy, you can say, please, you people know that I am extravagant. I don't know how to manage funds. Please, I'm sorry. What you're saying is realistic, but I can't afford it. Because I would have to maintain the private jets that I allow my sons to go and, attend party with. I would have to, at least confess to your profligacy. That I take 1,000 persons to go to Dubai or United Nations, so the money remaining is less. At least confess that you are an incompetent government, that you cannot afford it. And then, because of the consequential adjustment, because when you give minimum wage, you will now have to adjust for other people who are earning high. Here is the catch. When this government removes subsidy, they say they are going to give 35,000 naira wage award to the workers. If you add the 35,000 naira to the 30,000 naira, how much does it come? 65,000 naira. What conscience do they have to come to the table and negotiate or start the negotiation with an amount less than that? Now they are coming under the pretense that the organized private sector is there, the state government is a tripartite arrangement. Let me ask this government, when you removed subsidy, depreciated the naira, and you're making this budget for this 15.6 trillion naira for one project, did you consult the state government? Did you consult the organized sector? It is only in the welfare of workers that decision lasts for 1 year. If you want to change the national anthem, 1 day, 2 days. You want to remove subsidy, 1 sentence. But when it comes to the welfare of the workers, which is your primary duty as a government, is lasting for 1 year without a decision. It took the national grid to be shut down, Nigeria to be paralyzed, before you can give them audience. Say you would reach up to 60,000. This government is an apology. So, what I am saying is that it will be unfair to talk about labor, and you're talking about anything less than 120,000 naira, anything less than. For the federal government too, that is the source of all this headache. I agree, the private sector may not be able to pay up to 100,000. your security man. I doubt whether the private sector, who is also a victim, because the private sectors are victims of this government in their policies. I doubt whether they will be able to pay more than 65 as minimum wage. If you ask me, I would say the private sector should be allowed to pay 65. They are going to struggle to do it, but just for the sake of humanity. The local government should be allowed to pay at least up to 70,000. My reason is that most people working in their locality are living around their locality. It's not like federal government where you will leave your locality, your state, and come to Abuja, where you buy everything that you will eat, including vegetable. Then I will say, you see, when I say up to, they can still come and beg and negotiate. There is a difference between above. For me, federal government should be not less than 120,000. State government should be able to pay up to 100,000. They can still come and say, I beg, depending on their state. Then the general minimum wage should be 65, so that when somebody is working, the person should be able to transport himself to the place that he's working, eat. And I'm talking about basic eating, not orishi. If you want to go and eat and you're being paid 65,000, if you choose the towel today, you won't combine it with the intestine. If you have been a Lagos boy like me, you eat amala. Those well garnished amala women is it the Demeter? I can't remember where we go to eat that time. All of us we eat. Madam, bitch. Orishi is no longer affordable. You come, you take towel today, or you take intestine, the other one you take kidney. See, this government has just finished the welfare of the people. They should negotiate for all these minimums at the same time. Because what this government is doing is hiding under the private sector, telling you, no, minimum wage is for everyone. It's a tripartite arrangement. No. There's no law that says you can't pay more than the minimum wage. The law is that you can't pay less. Edo State started paying 70,000, and the federal government is trying to tell me they will hide under the organized right to say 62,000. No. You can pay more. So what the labor should do is they should recognize that the capacity of these people that are involved in the collective bargaining, is different. And the people that are causing this problem is the federal government. And they are just extorting the money to feed their profligacy. Not that they are doing anything reasonable. That is the truth. It is very painful. If you have been an activist, as I have been, it's always very painful when you take actions that you don't want to take, but you're compelled to take. You don't know the personal torture that these labor people go through, that they are taking certain action. When you want to shut down the national grid, it may be your own brother that's in a hospital that may die. So don't even think that anybody has any joy in doing that. Don't even think that there is any opposition that is praying for us to come to that level. But when you have a government that it is only when you do such a thing that they listen to you, you see that your hands are tied. I will give you a scenario. A government is telling you by shutting down national grid is treasonable felon. They are saying it shamelessly. You know why I'm saying this? In their government within 1 year, 22 times, about 22 times, national grid has collapsed. By their own incompetence. So they ought to be held responsible for treasonable felony 22 times before you talk about labor. Because in law, we don't just talk about the actus reus in the form of action. It can be an omission. You can be charged with murder, not because you killed, but because of negligence, because of recklessness. If you are a driver and you're driving your car, and you ought to have serviced your brake and you did not, and you're driving and your brake fell, and you kill somebody, you know you did not have any intention to kill the person, but you can be charged with murder because of your carelessness, negligence to do what you're supposed to do. It's a government that has, by its own incompetence, inflicted on the people national grid collapse by almost 22 times within 1 year. He's talking about national grid being shut down and it's treasonable felony. Somebody should help me and try this government for treasonable felony for 22 times, please. Because the national grid collapsing achieved the same effect than whatever the labor will achieve. The only difference is that there is no welfare of the people that are being fought for when their own 22 times collapsed. So we gain nothing apart from punishment. So a government that has shame, would they be talking that labor switched off national grid, which would have switched off on his own without labor doing anything? It has switched off on its own for 22 times. About that. So is it not funny? People should have sense of shame. You want to hold labor. And you're saying, this is treasonable felony. Assuming without considering, I'm not trying to say I support what Labour said, but I'm trying to tell you that even themselves, why do you think that within 2 days they called off the strike? It's because of human conscience. It's because they themselves are not enjoying what was happening. But that was the only way. A government that waits until something gets to that level before it can do something, who is more murderous. Because those people that are saying minimum wage, they are dying of hunger. They are dying of lack of health care. They are dying of poverty. Poverty is the greatest killer on earth. I've seen people die at the foot of hospital because they could not even purchase the card to go into the hospital. That's poverty. So please, we are trying the level for one time for switching off national grid. Let's try this government to that for the national grid command. It's the same thing. I stand, somebody can contradict me, honestly. That's why I'm saying that this government should have a sense of shame when they say certain things. You know, democracy is the rule of the people. Do you think that if we are in a democracy, what is happening now will be happening? In a genuine democracy, the government is afraid of the people. In a dictatorship, which is what we are in, the people are afraid of the government. So we don't have democracy. Sorry. Democracy is a system of government that operates on separation of power, checks and balances. The pillars of democracy is free, fair, credible, verifiable, periodic election. 1. Rule of law. 2. Impartial and independent judiciary. 3. Free and independent media. 4. Human rights, respect for fundamental human rights of citizens. 5, etc. These are the major. Which one have we excelled since we came back to democracy? our elections have become a mockery to the whole world. That people now sit down and INEC will give original result sheets to politicians and they will refill it and give to INEC. And on the election day, the INEC officials will transmit that to the IRF portal as election. Pre-filled results. They happen in Kogi. They happen in Imo State. Where they are telling you that in one local government, two local government, you got all the results you need to win in the whole state. It happened in Kogi. Pre-filled result. Don't take my words for it. Take the word of Yaga Africa. Take the words of the observers who observed the election. It was from their mouth that I had pre-filled results. It's not my own word. So it's common knowledge. You're getting 500 and something thousand persons voting in Imo State in a time that they said the turnout was low. And during the main general election, everybody went in to vote. They couldn't get up to 300,000 as everybody voted. Magic. So our election has become a caricature of election. I was part of the campaign, and INEC told you technical glitch, their own word. Not when it happened though, when they had finished announcing the result. And they're trying to justify the bogus result they announced because they didn't have any other reason. And they spoke English that confused people more than convincing people. Technical glitch. Today I don't know what it means. The former commissioner of voter and civic education, he came out 6 months after election and told people that he's not in the technical department, that he doesn't know what it means. First Zokoi. He came out 6 months after. A learned man that defends people in court, whether it's engineering or something. When he goes to court, he wouldn't tell them he doesn't know anything about engineering. He will say, no, I'm learned. Whether in medicine. He's the one who educates voters. More than 6 months. Came to television in channel and they asked him what is technically. He said, I am not good in computer. I don't know, what is it? Can you imagine? So, if you that is supposed to teach the voters education about the democratic voting process, you don't know, then is it me that's ordinary voter that knows? It's a shame.
How do we redefine this democracy we're talking about?
Now, we just talked about election. We've not talked about rule of law. Where a man will come after inauguration and say fuel subsidies gone, when there is already a law that says it cannot go till the 30th of June. When you talk about rule of law, you talk about everything should be done in accordance with the law. Government actions should be done in accordance with the law. And that the independence and impartiality of the court should